We pay our respects and acknowledge the traditional custodians, past, present, and emerging. As today, we welcome you to our 5 Women, 5 Days series in honour of International Women's Day 2021. I'm Sonia Bestulic, and I have the pleasure in this series to feature brief chats with Australian women writers as we acknowledge the theme, Choose to Challenge, and also celebrate perseverance and resilience. So joining me today, we have Jane Smith, Elizabeth Mary Cummings, and Allison Paterson, and Diane Evans.
Hi.
Now, today is day 4 of our series, so we have a bit of a spotlight on Diane Evans. Diane is an author and she's the publishing director for Big Sky Publishing. In addition to working on individual children and adult titles, she oversees the review and selection of titles for publication. Diane has been a director at Big Sky Publishing for 14 years. Welcome, Diane, and thank you so much for joining today's chat.
Hi, Sonia. Thanks for having me.
Now, I'm so curious to learn more from you, Diane. How do you think women have shaped the publishing industry?
I think there's been an amazing contribution from women, not just in the publishing industry, but in industry generally. But within the publishing industry, I think we now see that authors are primarily women. There's a domination of women in female roles in the publishing industry. And if we look at the journey, that's very different from where things have started off. So I think just in terms of, your topic today around resilience and perseverance and what women bring, I don't think there's any better demonstration of that. I mean, if we go back to, the 18th century where women were writing under pseudonyms to be published, to now being the majority of authors, that's a long way. We've come a long way. And I think just even in terms of the publishing industry, the fact that there is such a dominance of women that have now come to the forefront, what they've brought is their energy and their passion. And I think with the publishing industry, people are in it because they want to be in it, they're passionate about it. In my opinion, it's not, there are women working in the publishing industry that may be able to use their skills elsewhere and be paid more, but they choose to persevere and work as authors or editors or, in the publishing industry generally because they love it. So that requires a lot of perseverance and a little bit of innovation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I love what you're saying there about that alignment of doing something that you love, and persevering through that regardless of some of the obstacles that might kind of be thrown your way. And that brings me to the next question, which is, what obstacles specifically do you think women have in being successful in publishing, or really in any industry? I know you kind of referred back to when they were using pseudonyms, etc. But what about in the current day? What do you think could be some of the obstacles that come to mind?
I think just generally, as much as we're getting much more appropriate gender balance, I still think just even from pay equity, I think if we look at the publishing industry, if we look at what authors are having to do to earn a living, if we look in the publishing industry, just, the amount of work and variety and juggling that people have to do to actually make it work financially, there's still a bit of an imbalance there. And I think just even in terms of that perseverance, to be an author and try and make a living out of being an author, particularly as a female author, it requires a fair bit of ingenuity in terms of, I want to write and make money, but what else? Most authors actually have another job or another couple of jobs or, a combination just to make it work. So that really requires a lot of persistence and the other thing the publishing industry delivers in terms of obstacles is it can be pretty tough to get out there and get published. So, you know, talking about resilience, you certainly need a lot of that.
Absolutely, because as anyone who is wanting to get published knows, there is a lot of rejection.
Yeah.
So, embarking on the journey of thickening your skin is certainly what you're looking to do when you're wanting to be published.
And not giving up, and working out, not giving up and just trying something different or trying a different approach. I think is something that women are good at. And when we talk about what women bring to the publishing industry, I think that's what they bring, the ability to innovate and try different things and just not give up.
Yes, keep going, keep going. So, how have you had to be resilient to succeed in this industry?
Um, One word would be change. If you look at the publishing industry, change has been monumental. Even in the time that I've been in it, as a sort of small to medium publisher, I think we've been able to deal with that quite well. But it certainly takes a lot of flexibility, and it takes, you really just have to roll with things. And one of the things that I've always tried to apply is, if something comes your way, you deal with it and then work out what the solution is. And in the publishing industry, we've had book closures, we've had digitalisation, we've had pandemics. It always seems to be that we've got a different type of issue coming our way, and I just think to me it's being able to think a bit entrepreneurially about that and to say, okay, well, here's the issue. How do we solve it? How do we get around it? And I think that's been from day one in the publishing industry something that we've had to deal with.
Certainly strengthens the creative thinking muscles, because you've just had no choice but to think creatively and be innovative, and adapt. And they're really key ingredients, aren't they, for resilience? Tell us, are there any interesting demographics relating to the book industry?
I think just going on the theme around women in publishing, again, going back and looking at that journey when there were very few female authors and they had to sort of fight to be published. There's now, I think, about 2/3 of authors are female, and certainly in the children's category, very strong representation of women there. And just going back to that thought about, women being in the industry and because they're passionate about it, not necessarily because it's well paid or, it's they couldn't use their skills somewhere else for more money. I think there was a survey that came out recently where 61% of the respondents said that they, felt that they could earn more money elsewhere and that their skills weren't being utilised. And I guess the other interesting demographic for me is just the percentage of people in the industry that have, degrees, and I think it's something like 80-90% degree qualified and 50% have postgrad. So primarily female dominated, very smart women. I think we're in good hands, really.
Yeah. Wonderful. So I'd love to know, Diane, who is a woman or women who you have been inspired by?
So many. And, when I was thinking about this question, the first person that comes to mind for me is Quentin Bryce. And only because I got to see her speak a number of times through my career, and, just her persona, her intelligence, and the fact that she came from a small bush town to be, Governor General, and everything she did all the way in between was just pretty amazing. But in terms of somebody else, just in terms of resilience and never give up attitude, Toria Pitt, I just think she's phenomenal and such a great inspiration to women and young girls. That'd be my two.
Fantastic. Diane, thank you so much for joining our 5 Women, 5 Day series for International Women's Day 2021.
Thanks for having me, Sonia.